Hey all, here OS Reviews. Over the past 2 years, we checked out a few tile modular lights, an idea that was initially popularized by the Nanoleafs. Afterwards, there's been really cheap versions we've seen, such as these hexagon lights, but also offer limited functionality in terms of it doesn't connect using Wi-Fi, and they could only display one color at a time. The variant we're looking at today is a much more feature-rich model that really rivals the more expensive Nanoleafs in terms of having the gradient colors, RGBIC, so each tile can display transition effects, supports a companion app, and even allows you to control it using smart assistants. The company here does make a number of other smart lighting products. They also have triangle-shaped versions and a round-shaped tile as well. These modular lights can of course be arranged in any way that you would like creatively, and what makes the Cololight a bit more unique compared to all of the other alternatives is that it also includes a desk mount, so you can actually stand it upright just like this instead of having to necessarily mount it on the wall, although you can obviously do that as well. A lot of flexible transitions and color effects can be created with 19 LEDs which are stacked inside and creates that effect. It can of course be used in pretty much any room, whether it's for an office, gaming environment, bedroom. There is 2 versions of this light. There's what they've called a Pro version and there's also a Plus version, but the Plus model has Apple's Homekit support, which is the version that we see here, versus the Pro edition is actually missing that functionality. It comes typically in a set that you see here of 6 or 7 tiles. It has won a CES Innovation Award, and this particular model has been on the market now for a little bit of time. So inside of the packaging here, we have just the stand right on top, and then underneath the tissue paper, we have, of course, the hexagon lights themselves, which I will say definitely are smaller than many of the other versions we've seen. So here it is next to the aforementioned other remote-controlled generic version that we see. And the difference is further magnified when we compare it with something like the Govee Hexa motifs, which are also these hexagon-shaped lights that we reviewed a few months back. One benefit is if you're trying to cover a similar area, these might look a little bit brighter just because there's just more lights. Similar to a higher resolution display, there's more quote-unquote pixels per inch. If you're cramming these together, they can create more convincing animations. The downside, of course, is if you want to cover a larger area, you have to pick up more expansion packs, which can be costly. Now, the process of connecting these up to power is very similar to the aforementioned other hexagon lights we've seen, where these are little adapters. Essentially, you connect between on the back, you snap one side onto here, and the other side connects to a second hexagon tile. And one of the tiles you can further connect using this, ultimately plugging into power. It takes a USB lead, so this can be actually turned on using something as simple as even a power bank or a computer, which is, again, very energy efficient. In fact, I don't even see a dedicated wall adapter plug in the box. Now, part of the reason why the price is a little higher is these are RGBIC lights, which means they can all be used independently from each other. There's essentially a processor on every single one of these lights. Construction is concerned, it does feel quite solid, which it should be as a fairly premium smart light. So let's set it up using the desk mount first. So the easiest ways I found of mounting this and set it up is just kind of attaching the tiles together first before you mount it onto either the desk or onto the wall. I'll just snap a piece here onto the back, and with this other tile, I'll then just pop it along here, give it a bit of a squeeze, and it's ready to go. I do like this translucent color they've picked for the base. It's also large enough in terms of the area that it doesn't really wobble around, and the tiles, even though they're fairly small, still can get a good height overall as a desk lamp, definitely, and even if you put it onto the wall, it still is for sure going to be visible. There is a dedicated power on and off key located at the very base there, so you can turn it on even without using the app. Slightly more complex looking shapes on the back there with all the connections and ports and how it's kind of being linked together. Overall, again, I do like the way it looks, and it is truly modular, so you can set it up in any shape that you want. Now, as I plug it into power, immediately it turns on and starts off in this really vibrant gradient mode, showing off these dazzling colors and transitions, which do look super smooth, and surprisingly, it's quite bright as well, so even if there's a bit of background light, it still is visible. I wouldn't say it's maybe going to be the best choice as a necessarily work light, but obviously it does still look quite good, and of course as you dim the lights around you, it becomes even more dazzling. You have to press on this little hole on the side, and that's why they actually give you a kind of SIM ejector pin in the box, and you have to actually press over here for 5 seconds during the first time to set it up and connect it to Wi-Fi. So after I press here for 5 seconds, I should then be able to connect to it on our device, you'll see that flashing light up here. And I'll choose the option on our smartphone's Wi-Fi settings by connecting to Cololight. And now we can connect the light itself to a Wi-Fi network. The UI of the app is also quite attractive and will show you the different effects that you can swipe between. So the first one here really reminds me of clouds, as it is just slowly strobing and going in these oscillating patterns. We can swipe up now to a next one called Sunrise. So this will go through a little bit more subtle colors of pinks as well as the yellows and violets, but it does seem to be changing at a rate which is kind of showing the colors consistently, kind of one color at a time, rather than really leveraging that RGBIC multicolored effect that some of the other transitions can provide. So I think this one could probably use a little bit of more fine-tuning, but overall still looks decent. Next one here is called Unicorns, or kind of reminds me of macaroons, really. Once again, we can go into the pensive mood, which is, I think, one of my favorites. It really reminds me of the Aurora colors, a cyan blue as it is going along, pretty smooth in terms of the patterns that we see here. Next one over is going to go into the Circus, which is another very dazzling one. Transition speeds are the fastest. And we can also swipe up again. This will go into another very fast pulsing mode that's called the 80s. And starts in this kind of circle pattern, really a wheel-like shape, I would say, that just really gets you almost dizzying in terms of the effect. Next one here called Cherry Blossom is another very pleasing one, personally. I think this one is very soft, gentle, and just a relaxing color shade between pinks and whites. Looking quite nice, I have to say. And next one here is Rainbow. So this one is just changing one color at a time, but it will pulsate upwards and still looks very attractive, I have to say. I do like the transition effect on this one as well. And if we zoom up again, Christmas, so this one is more of a holiday themed one. It's a pretty simple to use interface, and on the side here we can also turn the light completely on and off just by a click, of course, as well as change the brightness using this dial. So there's something called a eye shield mode that will lower it automatically to level 15 in terms of brightness. So this is going to be significantly dimmer if you're using it just as a night light. Overall, it's working quite well in terms of the latency, not a lot of issues here as expected, as long as you have a fast enough network connection since it's using Wi-Fi. And once you have it connected, you can control it from anywhere in the world. Now, the app also allows us to customize the colors even more just by tapping on this icon. We can go into a DIY mode that will allow us to change between different mood effects as well as different colors. So if I want to change, let's say, the color here, I can go into the rainbow, breathing, azure, so on and so forth. And if I wanted to, I can then change the animation speed to make it faster or slower. That's going to change the pulsing motion to become faster, or again, at a more relaxed pace. And I can even change the direction that it moves in, from going upwards, going inwards, or even going downwards, counterclockwise. All of these effects can be fully customized. Now, on the final icon here, it allows us to activate the microphone for it to react to sound and music. So you can use either your device's microphone from your phone, or you can use the actual mic located on the lights themselves. And just depending on how loud the environment is, you can see it basically flash and almost act like an equalizer in terms of the color as it spikes up and down as we're talking. So pretty fun if you are trying to use it as, let's say, a party light. I can also change it to a single color just by swiping over to the right. And on here, I can now go through these by a single shade, one at a time. So this one here is Primrose Yellow. We have also a green color. This one here is a more kind of darker green, Dazzling Blue, and these are no longer strobing or really changing at all. Everything is just one consistent shade. If for any case you want to just leave it on here and do something a little bit more simple, you can go through all of these colors. And again, it gives you quite a good variety. Now, if we actually leave it into the white color here for a moment, and I change it by going all the way up to the maximum brightness, you get an idea of pretty much how bright these lights can get. And as far as a desk light is concerned, it's definitely not bad. I can shine it here onto a different surface, and you get an idea of the kind of brightness level overall. If I actually have something next to it like just a book that I might be reading, you can see that actually the text can still be fully legible. You can still turn it on and off using this key at the bottom, which is pretty convenient, and even cycle between some of the quick presets just by a click of a button. So that is also useful if you don't want to further complicate it. You can just operate it manually. It goes through the rainbows and some of the basic presets that we took a look at earlier. Now, as a few ending remarks, the lights themselves work quite well in terms of definitely giving you a lot of different different transition modes, very detailed colors, even the speed, the direction of all the lights can be customized, very vibrant, and they get surprisingly bright as well due to the high density of lights inside. With that being said, I would still say that the size of the lights I do think are still a little bit small, to be completely honest. If they can expand it a little bit, you don't have to necessarily pick up quite as many of them to fill a larger area. However, if you're comparing it with a Nanoleaf, I would say it still is definitely fair as far as the overall kind of price range that they're going for. These are definitely premium LED modular lights at the end of the day. So you can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Cololight Hexagons.